Welcome to this first slot of lightning talk sessions. It's really a great pleasure to welcome you, and also many thanks for the contributions from the presenters that we are going to have. 6 presentations, 6 presenters representing different initiatives, projects, and much more people involved in each of the projects and initiatives that are going to be presented. So this is 1 hour session. We have some time at the end. I hope that it will be possible to reply to some of your questions. Of course, as this session is quite interactive, you can also use the chat to put your questions. So during or at the end of the presentation, so the presenters will make sure that they can also reply. Submit your questions in the chat. So at the end, if we have those 10 minutes that we expect to have, you can ask questions. But I think it's good if you also to put some questions in the chat, because then you can have kind of conversation with the presenters. The event, this session is being recorded. All the presentations will be made available in the website, as also the recordings that will be part also of the YouTube channel of the Open Science Fair. Please keep your microphone muted, and if you want to make some noise in social media, just use the hashtag of the conference, OSFAIR2021, or you can also mention Open Science Fair Twitter account. Let's start with this session B of the lightning talk. So we have already a bit more than 50. We are expecting more for sure. They are joining. Let's start with this first slot of lightning talks. We are quite happy to have this organization and all the contributions to empower our international community around open science, fair data, RDM, the development of different services. And this kind of session, like the lightning talks, are quite interesting for this, for sharing the recent developments, projects, initiatives. This is what we are going to do in the coming 50 minutes. Lightweight fair assessment in the OpenAIRE Validator is the first talk. It's the first presentation. It's a 7 minutes presentation. So Andreas can present the authors and proceed with the presentations. Andreas Serzniak will do the first presentation. We will have 5 different then presentations, but we will see it. So the first one, light fair assessment in the validator, in the OpenAIRE Validator. So Andreas, the floor is yours to run the first presentation. You can share your screen.
So thank you very much, Pedro. And thank you for the opportunity to present our work from OpenAIRE Advanced project here at Open Science Fair. And I would present the evaluation process of our OpenAIRE guidelines. And my name is Andreas Czerniak from Bielefeld University Library, and I'm working for OpenAIRE and led this work in the OpenAIRE Advanced phase. I would like to give you a very brief overview about 3 topics. One is the repository landscape and the history of the OpenAIRE guidelines. The other one is the FAIR principles evaluation process of the latest guidelines that we have, the verification process called. And last is a short introduction to the FAIR assessment that we have implemented in our provided dashboard for repository managers. If we start for the landscape of repository types, we have a lot of different repository types outside, institutional thematic repositories, publication repositories, journals, data, software, other research products, and newly come up more potentially the CRIS repositories or CRIS systems. And these repositories have a lot of different types and research outputs covered in. Here's a short overview. I go not really into detail here. You can see it in the presentation afterwards. But you see that institutional and thematic institutional repositories covers literature, data sets, software, and other research products. And only the CRIS covers more than these 4 types of research output. So what we have in our OpenAIRE guidelines, the OpenAIRE guidelines started in 2010 with the first version, and our last version is from 2018. You see different kinds of guidelines that covers first of all literature, then data, then come also software and other research products, CRIS systems come up, and the latest one from 2018 was the guidelines for institutional and thematic repositories. This covers not only data, but also other literature and other kinds of research outputs. And now we're in the phase of updating our guidelines. So with this history, we started a verification process, an evaluation process of the FAIR data principles from the ADA. This is published in the last year, mid of last year, and you know it all: findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable was the main things of these specification and guidelines. And we evaluate our guidelines for institution and repository managers. So what we have to do, we focus on the findable and make the visible of the specification and map these specification to our guidelines. And here's a short screenshot about the specification table and the results of the first findable specification. And we see that we are, for the OpenAIRE guidelines, very good to foster the findable research output here. So same for accessible. It's the same procedure, same methodological that we are used. And in this case for accessible, we see that we have some gaps at the moment that are not covered in the guidelines. And this focus mostly on data accessible through access protocol and check if it's available or not, and so on. So the part of the metadata was completely covered, but the other part of data was not really covered. And we do this for interoperability. I will go through it very quick here. So, and the same for reusable. And we make these visible, these evaluation process also in the next version of our guidelines. It's release candidate 1, and you can see here, and I can share it afterwards, the link to the latest guidelines. So what we also do is that we integrate these from this evaluation process, the extract of elements in our provide dashboard that are for repository managers and CRIS managers. And there was another open part of the validator that we have that covers the OpenAIRE FAIR assessment. You can log into these provide dashboard with your login, and put your base URL here and take finish. And if you click finish, the system evaluates your repository and your repository metadata. And here's a short screenshot about the results. They are covered more. You can try it out in the provide dashboard. So what we have learned, that the RDA data principles covers data, or mostly data, but it's also possible to analyze other kinds of resource output with these principles, FAIR principles. The analysis was done, and we are discussing something about elements that we cannot cover directly from the metadata. We could also identify through the OpenAIRE research graph that we have, or something else, and as refinement of the guidelines is a key. And this was important to have a practical support for repository and CRIS managers in mostly a automated way. And we will share novelties during our monthly community calls at Provide. And I would like to thank you, my colleagues here, and also my colleague Johan from Bielefeld University for this work. Thank you very much.
Great. Many thanks, Andreas. Thank you for this presentation. So be aware that you can make your comments, questions in the chat, and for sure, Andreas will be happy to answer and to provide some more information if needed in terms of links, etc. Let's move to the second question: innovative long-term data preservation services for the EOSC. Ignacio Lozada will run this presentation. So, Ignacio, thank you for joining, for the contribution, and you can start your screen share and start your presentation.
Okay, I'm sharing my screen right now. Can you see the slides?
Everything is okay. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So, hi everyone, my name is Ignacio Poluaga, and in this presentation, I will give a quick overview of the OpenAIRE project. So the focus of the project is in archiving and data preservation services using cloud services, everything available through the European Open Science Cloud. The total budget for the project is 4.8 million. It started in January 2019, has a total duration of 42 months, and CERN is the leading partner in this project. So even though CERN is leading the project, there are two groups of organizations involved in the archive consortium. We have the BIOS group, which is conformed by CERN, DESI, MBOLIVI, and PIC. And these are public organizations that commit funds to contribute to the R&D procurement. They also submit use cases and the testing effort for testing the R&D. Then we also have the experts. They are partner organizations that bring expertise in requirements gathering and dissemination activities. These two groups together, they conform the OpenAIRE consortium. So looking at the use cases that were collected for this project, as you can see here on the right-hand side of the slide, there were a set of use cases submitted by all the members of the BIOS organization, the BIOS group. And as you can see on the left-hand side of this slide, these use cases map to different layers of what will be the eventual services created through the OpenAIRE project. I'm not going to go too much into detail, but basically these use cases, they cover the most low-level layer, like the storage, basic archiving, going through the preservation layer, then the baseline user services, everything being accessed through federated identity and assets management is possible. And then on the top, the more advanced layers like high-level services, representation of the data, reproducibility of analysis, etc. So here in this slide, you can see the timeline of the project. The project started, like I said before, in early January. There was a phase of preparation and selection of the bits. In June 2020, the R&D competitive execution started with the design phase. For this phase, 5 of the bits of the selecting bits were selected. During this phase, this consortium had to design a platform. Then in the prototype phase, 3 consortia out of the 5 were selected. Basically, in this prototype phase, they had to, let's say, bring to life those designs that they had created. And now currently we're in the call-off for the last phase, the pilot phase. During this call-off, 2 of the 3 consortia that were involved in the prototype phase will be selected. In this pilot phase, basically what we're looking at is what we'll be looking at is the scalability of the prototypes. This phase will end at the end of May, 1 month before the end of the project. So let's go quickly through the consortia that were selected for the prototype phase. We have the Archivum consortia. They proposed an architecture composed of microservices to scale to multi-petabyte volumes of objects. They're based on Kubernetes on top of the GCP infrastructure. It's a service-oriented software as a service stack. The solution can be deployed on premises, but also in a hybrid cloud configuration. And they have Archivematic as an option. Then we have LibNova. Their prototype was based on their proprietary product, LibSafe. They use the infrastructure provided by AWS and Voxility. They have a rich API which offers all the capabilities from the user interface. They have active monitoring, and it's possible to do a division, let's say, of the components. We have the software components, everything running on Kubernetes. This is adjustable according to the demand to ensure scalability. But also, they also have auxiliary services. Last but not least, we have the T-System consortia. During the design phase, they did a full gap analysis. And this resulted in a modern open source architecture, including OneData, OpenFast, Flowable, and everything running on the Open Telecom Cloud infrastructure. They also, their platform is also based on Kubernetes. Their workflow management is based on BPMN, and then the whole thing that they achieve after this prototype phase will be made available with an open source software licensing at the end. A few facts about the testing that we did during the prototype phase. So the main activity of the phase was to test and provide feedback to the contractors about their prototypes. We did this following an agile methodology, and we carried out
We lost Ignacy.
ingest with hundreds of terabytes. Okay, and now to conclude my presentation, sorry, a few conclusions. Like I said, the pilot phase will start in November with 2 consortia selected out of the current 3, the 3 that participated in the prototype phase. The R&D challenge of digital archiving goes beyond the data storage. It's not only keeping the bits, but also making sure that the research output is reusable. During the pilot phase, we will extend the FAIR assessment and testing. Archiver is acting as a template to commoditize archiving and preservation in research domains to make it a more accessible product, so to speak. And then to finish the presentation, so Archiver is promoting a sustainable model with services that will exist after the project end. Everything in the context of the EOSC. So for example, making the services available in the EOSC catalog. And with that, I conclude my presentation. Thank you for your attention. And now if there is any question, I'll be happy to answer them. Thanks.
Great, many thank you, Ignacio. We lost you for 20-25 seconds in the previous slides of the conclusions, but it's great. If you want to highlight something, you can do it. But please be aware that you can post your questions in the chat, and Ignacio will be available to reply at the end. Let's see if we have time. So many thanks. You can stop your presentation, and let's now move to the next presentation. So the third presentation of this session B of the Lightning Talks, empowering the energy transition through fair and open data with EnerMaps data management tools. Jacob Rager will do the presentation. So many thanks, Jacob, to contribute to this conference. You can start sharing your screen. Please put your questions. Also, if the presenters want to share any link, any useful link from their presentations, you can also do it in the chat. Okay, Jacob.
Hello, thank you, Pedro, for the introduction. I hope that the screen now is shared correctly.
Yes, everything
Start.
Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay. So, hello, everybody. My name is Jakob Rager. I'm heading the EnerMaps consortium. And now we'll talk about what we'll do for the energy transition. So first of all, the classic recall, just what is fair energy data. I think you all know it. Now we try to transpose this a little bit to the energy sector. When we look into this for details, in generally, what happens is that everybody tells us, yes, we do have data. However, you need to find this famous needle in the haystack. So this is where EnerMaps, the idea was created, and we try really to gather this information and help people get the information out of all the data that is available. We're addressing ourselves at, of course, the research community. However, we see other data users that are requiring good quality energy data in order to advance the transition faster. Those, especially the public administrations, the energy planners and utility managers that work on daily business with energy. Policy decision makers need rather the high level view, but still need also data. And finally, the data providers that collect it and give you the data once you ask for it. So just maybe look on the consortium. As I said, my name is Jakob Rager from the CREM. We work together in this consortium with EURAC, EDIAP, OpenAIRE, TUVN, eThink, and Revolve. And within this project, we then look into more detail on how to centralize the energy data sets and especially increase accessibility of scientific data sets. That sounds always nice and easy. However, there are so many data sets out there that nobody has really been able to provide yet. And we try to therefore make a quality check process and ensure that a basic data set for everybody is available. So EnerMaps comes with 35 data sets that are ready to be used. And with that, we then start a series of workshops that should really facilitate using EnerMaps tool and focus on day-to-day problems that the different users can do have according to our experience, so that they take the tool in hand. And now I'll stop talking about the tool. I rather let Cedric, my colleague, take over so that he gives you a couple insights on the tool. And with that, I'll hand over and I'll remain available, of course, for questions.
Thank you, Jakob. Now I suggest to take a look on the tools developed by the EnerMaps project partners. Next slide, please. Thanks. The concept that is proposed in the framework of the EnerMaps project can be present in the form of two tools. These two tools are complementary. However, the use of one rather than the other will be determined according to the need of each user. For example, if you are in need of, if you need exhaustivity, or if you search particular dataset, or if you need links between publication and datasets, you will probably go for the EnerMaps gateway. But in other end, if you are, if you need, for example, new dataset and no dataset, created quality check dataset, or just a visualization or analysis tools, you will probably go for the EnerMaps and data management tool. Next slide, please. But now let's move on the more precise presentation of these two tools, and let's start with the EnerMaps gateway. The gateway is actually is a platform that brings together renewable energy data in one place. Next slide, please. This platform allows to browse this data to find the one that interests us with classic solutions, such as search bar and filter. The information on this platform is identified and traceable, so that user can easily find the metadata related to it. Next slide, please. If you just can go on the next slide. I don't know if you hear me. No, but
yes, I do. You want this one?
No, if you just can go to
this one, the map right away. Sorry for that.
No problem. Actually, the particularity of this platform is that it embeds datasets selected and reviewed by experts in the field, and this data, can be let's say downloaded locally, and can be also visualized in the EnerMaps data management tool. And this data management tool is presented in the form of a graphical a GIS tool. It's actually a map visualization platform. The user can make a first visualization and analysis of the dataset reviewed by an expert. Next slide, please. Thank you. The solution proposed in this platform is just a small tool that analyzes the layer available on the platform. Next slide. You have on the right of the platform just a short overview of the output of the calculation module. And if the user wants to go back to the metadata or the data related to the analysis they just have done, they have the possibility to just follow the link and go back to the EnerMaps gateway. In conclusion, the two tools are developed are complementary in order to allow an exploration of the data most adapted to the situation. Next slide, please. So that's quite all. Don't hesitate to follow us on our different social media networks to get more information about the EnerMaps project, or to be updated on the progress of the project. And thank you for your attention, and I'm at your disposal for any questions.
Great. Thank you, Cedric and Jacob. Thank you for your presentation. So feel free, all participants, to ask questions to Jacob and to Cedric in the chat. If you can stop presenting, Jacob, thank you for sharing the screen. Let's move to the next presentation, Blue Cloud, by Kate Larkin. Blue Cloud, demonstrating the potential of open science and for the ocean through a thematic EOSC. So it's a presentation that will be done by Kate Larkin. So it's here already ready. Thank you for your contribution, Kate. If you want, you can share the screen and start your presentation.
Thank you very much, and good morning to everyone. Okay.
Perfect.
So thank you very much. Good morning. Thank you for the invitation to present to you today the European Horizon 2020 project Blue Cloud. My name is Kate Larkin. I'm Director of Research at Seascape Belgium, and I'm working together with colleagues there and across the partnership of Blue Cloud to coordinate the strategic roadmap to 2030 for Blue Cloud. So today, what I'd like to do is give you a flavour of the what, the why, the how, and the who for the Blue Cloud project, which is really demonstrating the potential for web-based open science for the ocean, and as a marine thematic component of the European Open Science Cloud EOSC. So to explain this further, I'm going to highlight how Blue Cloud works in partnership with its existing EU capability. I'll present a little bit about the added value of Blue Cloud for society, for the wider community, but also for existing data research and e-infrastructures that are collaborating in Blue Cloud. And then I'm going to outline some of the key synergies, partnerships that Blue Cloud continues to develop, both within Europe and beyond, and both within the marine domain and outside or cross-domain. And then invite you at the end to have your say in developing the future roadmap. So just looking at the metrics or the facts and figures for Blue Cloud very briefly. So this is a European Horizon 2020 project. It's a flagship project within the seas and oceans domain. It's just coming to the end of its second year with 20 partners and 13 blue infrastructures that are directly connected, but there are many more that are connecting through the partnerships and synergies. And Blue Cloud aims to pilot a collaborative web-based environment that will enable open science in the marine domain. So this is really underpinned by simplified access to a huge wealth of marine data, which is already made available, but linking this all up and making it fully interoperable, and then producing added value services and products to really optimize web-based open science. So to move forward on this state of the art, Blue Cloud is connecting existing European capability and developing key assets in the areas of data and discovery access, virtual research environments, and with some demonstrators to show the societal value. So this is a marine knowledge value chain. It's quite a complex diagram, but what I'd really like you to look from the left to the right. You have the full value chain of marine data, from the data collection and the ocean observation on the left, which is taken by sensors and samplers in the water or from satellites with remote sensing. Then if you go to the middle, you have more the data management, the data services, the applications, and then finally on the right-hand side, the users of all of these data and marine knowledge. And the key message I'd like you to take from this is that Blue Cloud sits in the middle of this marine knowledge value chain. You can see that it's very dependent upon the ocean observation and data collection. It's also dependent upon the many existing data management infrastructures, research infrastructures, data services like eModNet, SeaDataNet, Copernicus Marine Service, and many others. But it really sits in the middle and adds value to this web-based open science, connecting the data management through to the users with more simplified access and more research-driven analytical tools. So then if we just have a little look at the added value, these are a couple of slides to show you the different assets. You have the data and discovery access service, and this is really showing how you can really link across existing infrastructures, which already make a wealth of marine data available, but really optimize this, make them even more interoperable and have simplified access to a huge wealth of data across the marine domain. Secondly, we have the virtual research environments here. This is perhaps quite a new concept for many because it's really a developing area, but the Blue Cloud is really moving the state of the art forward on this and piloting these online computing platforms, which really demonstrate the potential for web-based collaborative open science. And then the 5 real-life demonstrators. So this is really where the Blue Cloud shows the societal value for marine data and for the web-based open science platforms. So you can see the diversity on the screen at the bottom. It ranges from marine ecosystems and conservation to aquaculture and fisheries. You have forecasting and innovation in the blue economy. And then we have an example I wanted to show you from existing data infrastructures. So just to have a quick look at how Blue Cloud adds value to these existing infrastructures, and also how these infrastructures are contributing to the Blue Cloud. So firstly, if we look at how EMODNet, the European Marine Observation and Data Network, how it contributes to Blue Cloud, you see some examples on the screen. So EMODNet is a very large federated data infrastructure, so it already conducts a lot of data management in the marine data domain, connecting 120 organizations across that field. So it really contributes a wealth of expertise, but also it offers a really integrated and standardized approach to in situ marine data. So it covers marine data from across the marine environment and human activities. And this is really data that's taken in the water, not the satellite based, which is more for Copernicus Marine Service. And EMODNet is developing an increasingly centralized approach to marine data services. So it really offers a lot of expertise in this data discovery and access, which is what Blue Cloud is building upon and really adding value to, connecting across different infrastructures. You also have EMODNet data ingestion, which supports data submission and ingestion across all the data providers. And EMODNet engages in a lot of European and international ocean best practices. So this is also really important expertise and advice that it can bring to the Blue Cloud project. And then if we flip it around, how can Blue Cloud benefit from and add value to EMODNet and all of these existing infrastructures and the developing European marine data space? Well, firstly, it's connecting all of these infrastructures into more of a sort of cross marine domain federation, if you like. And this is really going to be a game changer for access to the users. It's really going to increase even more than is possible now, increase the connection to the user community and the use of these data and products, simplifying the access so that users from all different professions and even non-experts in the future should be able to access and use these types of marine data for policy applications, industry, civil society, and wider. It's also, I mentioned this EU marine data space, it's making the marine domain even more interoperable than it is currently, expanding the data providers and users, both thematically and beyond Europe. And then also really strengthening this thematic marine domain, which can be hopefully a strong component of the future EOS. And if I briefly look at synergies and partnerships, you've seen on the right-hand side, there's a number of European partnerships. So what I will do now is just highlight the international partnerships. First, you have IODE of UNESCO and the Ocean Best Practices. And then I wanted to just highlight the Atlantic interactions. This is something that has been going on a while, and there are some upcoming events on this where Blue Cloud is really engaging on this future all-Atlantic data space. And then my last two slides are really to invite you to have your say in the Blue Cloud Strategic Roadmap to 2030. It was released in June of 2021, and there's a second consultation online now. So please, if you are interested, have your say. It closes on the 22nd of October. The link is below, and then please have a look at these links for more information. There's also some demonstrations later today, I think 12:30 Central Europe time, and tomorrow. So thank you for your attention.
Many thanks, Kate, for your contribution to sharing this work. The chat is always available for the presenters to share any relevant link, and also for the participants to ask questions and to feel free to do it. So, Kate, thank you, and you can stop sharing your screen. Thank you very much. Let's move. So we are on time, so it's good. Still not ready for EOSC, experiences from one co-creation activity, Obrad Vukovac. So this is a presentation from the creation in EOSC. Let's hear you. I will stop sharing the screen. So Obrad, okay, you are already ready.
Okay.
So, okay.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Obrad Vukovac, and I'm a librarian at Vinci Institute of Nuclear Sciences, that is part of University of Belgrade. And this lightning talk will present the results of a small team of professionals that are numbered here. from the University of Belgrade on the co-creation activity that was funded by the EOSC Secretariat under the title Boosting EOSC Readiness, Creating a Scalable Model for Capacity Building in Research Data Management. A delay in open and fair data policies and practices created a significant gap in the uptake of EOSC between the European Union and non-EU Western Balkan countries, in this case, Serbia, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Montenegro, and North Macedonia, which can be observed in the lack of infrastructure, policies, incentives, and professional data stewards or librarians with suitable competencies and skills. These 4 Balkan countries share a similar situation. Research institutions are very similar, as is the overall researchers' awareness of the open science knowledge and practices. And most importantly, our national languages are quite similar, which makes a significant advantage, having in mind that our research and librarians communities are quite small. While significant progress has been made with the national open science policies, open access journals, and the development of research repositories network, research data management and fair data principles are still insufficiently adopted in the local research community. The objective of the co-creation activity was to create a model for local capacity building in research data management adjusted to the needs of this region. The idea behind the project was to create deliverables that could be reused, and even more importantly, to set up a model for countries with fewer resources and smaller research communities that may not be part of the European Union and that may not be involved in European projects. The project's activities included training for decision makers at the University of Belgrade, and as a result, a dedicated person had been appointed to provide support to researchers in issues regarding RDM. And trainings for research librarians, especially they're especially important for their role in assisting researchers with research data management. The results of the project include the dedicated website with guidelines and training materials for introducing research data management and fair data principles to the wider research community, and a localized or translated to Serbian, at least, Argos software or application developed by the OpenAIRE for designing and creating, writing data management plans. Again, we have a Dataverse data repository. At this moment, it is only as a pilot model version, and it is only for now for as a demonstration purposes when negotiating with the decision makers, and in case of Serbia, it is our Ministry for Science. And also we did some amendments on national open science policies, especially in Serbia on the open science platform, which is adopted some 3 years ago. And that policy didn't include everything that's managed with fair data principles and especially and DMPs for national science funding. All the results are freely available under an open license, so anyone can reuse them and adjust them to their needs. The project will have both a formal and informal follow-up. All team members are also members of the official national team for open science that was established last year, so 2020, and which continued working during this year as well. They will advocate for policy changes, infrastructure development, and the introduction of formal training for data stewards along the lines defined in the project. On the other hand, the same team has recently established the Open Science Community Serbia, which will provide an informal framework for actions aimed at building an open science community and culture in Serbia. This co-creation activity contributed to the overall EOSC awareness and readiness in non-EU Western Balkan countries by funding a firm ground for cultural change related to the scientific practices in the research community. This approach can be of great value to universities and research institutions in countries that do not have already established infrastructure and policies for research data management and sharing. That's all. And for any questions, please be asked. Feel free to ask. Thank you.
Great, Obrad. Many thanks for sharing these developments from Serbia and the contribution from and for EOSC. Thank you very much. Let's move to the last presentation. And I invite you all to share questions or thoughts also from the presenters in the chat if you need. Keywords for data discovery. Birgit Matiak, so to run this presentation. Many thanks for your contribution to this conference. Birgit, feel free to.
Yes, hello. And thank you for the introduction. So I'm Brigitte Matiak. We did some joint research with also Fidan Limani and Yusuf Yunus, and we are working at the German NFDI, specifically Consort SVD, which is the consortium for social science research data. Oh, okay. And the one thing that we were looking into was data discovery and how this affects how we should set up our repositories and our infrastructure. And what we found out in prior work is that the data discovery is a rather complex process. I have a little figure here where you can see how that works. Basically, people look for research, other people look directly for repositories. But the tiny gap that we are interested in is when someone has found a research data set in the literature, how are they going to be able to find it in a repository? And the main way that people are doing that is by using, for example, Google or other web search engines. So what we're looking for specifically is trying to find out how exactly that process works. And in order to do that, we're looking at some search queries made in web search and try to cluster them and to gain some insight into how that should be set up in a way that this process runs as smoothly as possible. So the data we used was from GESIS. GESIS is a German Leibniz Institute for Social Science. We have a lot of research data on surveys and similar things. We have a total of 2 repositories for which we both used the web queries. We also went to one of our partners within the consortium, DZW, who also presented us with some queries. And what we also did was we looked at a lot of full texts and looked at what kind of data mentions there were and to get an idea of what kind of words are typically used within literature to describe data sets. We then used 2 methods, but I'm only going to present one because this is a lightning talk and you're probably not all that interested in the technical computer sciencey details of what we did. We made a lot of pre-processing, tokenization, removing stop words, removing punctuation in numbers. Punctuation numbers is actually pretty important because, for example, people are using for a survey from a given year. But for our purpose, that was not that important, so we just skipped it out. We tokenized the queries, meaning that when people use multi-word queries, we actually looked at each term individually. That allows us to find common terms within query strings. For each keyword, we computed and normalized the number of clicks and the range and the number of impressions in the range. Was the clicks and the impressions come directly rawly from the data, which is something that Google provides via the Search Console. And then we compute the CCR, which is the number of clicks divided by the number of impressions. the resulting chart is then clustered by the keywords using k-means with Koenigsegg-Haber-Bus, depending on their CCTR. And I see some chat. I will go to the chat afterwards if I still have time. Okay, these are some of the results that we had, this is just what we found in the data. Names of data sets and abbreviations, acronyms are very, very common. For example, one of the keywords here on the right-hand corner is BFI. This is the Big Five inventory. If you've done anything in psychology, you probably know what I'm talking about. And then we also have stuff like narcissistic personality inventory, and then these individual terms pop up fairly prominently. But we also discovered, and this is basically, I mean, it's pretty reasonable to assume that when people look for data set, they actually type in the name of the data set. But we're also looking for specifier terms, which are also quite interesting because they serve to they allow us to make ambiguation. For example, if the name of or the acronym of your data set happens to have the same name as, I don't know, a K-pop band or anything, you will kind of like get drowned in the internet. So people add additional terms to specify that they are in fact looking for data sets. And one of the terms that we found, which was a little bit surprising, was stuff like question. And questionnaire and data set was also there. So there were a lot of signifier terms that we could use to see, okay, this is a web search, but this is a web search that's geared as what people are trying to find is actually data set. What we also found, which is all kind of like a negative result, is that descriptive subject terms are fairly rare. But they could also be because they're unsuccessful. So we don't really know. So what we did find is we only look at successfully completed queries. So we don't really know anything about that. So if you are setting up your web page for your system and you want to be able to people find you via web search, please make sure that the name of the data set and your abbreviations or acronyms that you're aware of are very prominently on the page, so you get a good page rank there and that people can find you. Also think about the signifier terms because they are really important for these sorts of disambiguation searches. For German social science, we figured now out what these are. Fragebogen, for example, which is German for questionnaire. We were a little surprised with that because usually we think of it in terms of this is a data set. But what we did discover is that actually, since we were looking between different systems, that they had different signifier terms than we had, and we were actually missing them. So sometimes it's really like you're missing the obvious when you don't write the word data set explicitly somewhere on your page. Yeah, but I would assume that that with very small degree of looking into the data, you can find those terms for whatever discipline you happen to have and put them on your website so you can be easily findable. Yeah, these are the references. Well, thank you very much. And there are 4 questions in the comments, but I don't think they're for me. So
yes, it's just sharing.
It's just sharing. Okay, so if you have further questions, we still have 5 minutes, I think.
Yes. So many thanks. We have some time for questions, so let's put 2. So I see that already some people are sharing here the useful links, so people can also copy paste and have these links or the contacts. So thank you very much for this great presentation. So any question that you want to ask, so just put it in the chat, or you can just turn on your microphone and feel free to ask. So we had 6 great presentations. Anything that you want to ask, or anything that you want to raise also from the presenters, if you want to use extra 20 seconds to provide some more information, feel free. If not, yeah, Jacob, please.
Yeah, just thank you again for the possibility to share this. And I just wanted to share one more intermediate result. We were quite surprised when we looked at EnerMaps and the data sets that we had, how the possibility today to share data is easy. However, how to really put it together in a fair way often has multiple barriers, additional barriers, especially legal barriers, which are quite frustrating because I mean we could call each other exchange, but we still cannot legally exchange the data, and that was quite surprising. So that we were able to lower the technology barrier. 20 years ago, this would have been very difficult to share, or 10 years ago maybe, and now, yeah, we just have sometimes a legal clause that will stop us from reusing the data in a good way, and that's a bit frustrating to see in our field.
Yeah, thank you. Let's work collaborative to solve those limitations that in fact are now critical in several institutions in several areas. So many thanks for sharing this. Okay, thank you all for the presenters that are also sharing here some useful links. Feel free to copy the chat. So this is for all participants. And okay, so many thanks to all the presenters for the contribution. This was quite relevant. I know that people that are participating in lightning talks are more in a passive position, so listening the presenters. But I think it was great. It's a great opportunity to hear several presentations in the short time. So many thanks to the presenters and many thanks to all participants to join this session.